Never in my life had I thought that I would be excited for a Windows computer. I used Windows up until high school as a daily driver. 3.1, 95, 98, uh, XP, Millennium, 2000. Then when I went to high school, I had to switch over to the Mac for my graphics courses. And over the years, I've never used a Windows machine as my daily driver. And I'm coming from a time where Windows machines, compared to the Mac, were insecure, buggy, broke down pretty easily, that sort of thing. Again, this was compared to the Mac, and we're talking about maybe 13 years ago now. But that might be about to change because of a conference that happened last week by a little known company called Qualcomm. Note the sarcasm, they are one of the biggest. I mean, if you have a cell phone, you're familiar with them. Okay. I had a couple of handsets that had Qualcomm modems in them. Verizon had a really big deal with them. So did the OEMs, LG, Samsung. And then nowadays we've got phones with the Snapdragon series of main processors in them. My Pixel, before it died, I believe that was running the 835. I don't remember. But anyway, Qualcomm have announced something really exciting. Take a look at this PC. It looks like an ordinary Windows machine, correct? That's where you're wrong. This machine, ordinary and unassuming on the outside, is running a brand new chip on the inside. This is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8CX, 8 Charlie X-ray. This chip was built from the ground up for Microsoft Windows. We're looking at laptops with multiple day battery life, with always-on connectivity, which I know that they've been around for a little while, but the performance has left something to be desired because they ran the Snapdragon 835. Qualcomm also announced the Snapdragon 855. Supposedly, the 8CX is going to be intended for the premium market, for businesses, for enterprise. In fact, Windows 10 Enterprise is supported with the Snapdragon 8CX. This is a casing that they have for the processor. You can see it right there. It's not very big. I would say it's about the size, physically speaking, for those of you who cannot see, I would say it's about the size of an SD card, a standard one, maybe a little longer. This thing is, it's just incredible what they can do these days. So let's take a look. I'm going to zoom in here so you can take a look at some of the info here. The most extreme Snapdragon ever. This is the 8CX, a compute platform. It says, and for those of you who cannot see, I'll go ahead and read this to you. For those of you who can see, please bear with me. Combines the best of the smartphone with the power and performance of a premium laptop in ultra-thin, fanless form factors. Superior always-on, always connected PC, computing experience, the first 7 nanometer PC platform. The only other 7 nanometer chip that I'm aware of at the moment is Apple's series of A12 and A12X Bionic chips. So for a Windows PC, this is a major breakthrough. The 8CX supports multi-gigabit LTE and multi-day battery life. Really quick, I'm going to talk about the multi-day battery life because if you are a note-taker user, I grew up with the Braille and Speak. A lot of people grew up with the Braille Light, with the Braille Note. You are already familiar with the multi-day battery life. Imagine what could happen And for those of you who are sighted, do a search for Freedom Scientific L Braille. It'll give you more information on the product that I'm referring to here. For those of you who are note-taker users, imagine if we're looking at multi-day battery life for a device with a screen, mainstream specifications. Imagine what we could do with a Snapdragon Series 8CX or 855 in an L Braille. We could probably end up getting up to a week of battery life on a Windows computer, no less. I am speechless. Let's take a look at some more info. So extreme performance. This combines the Adreno 680 GPU, which is engineered to provide a 2 times performance improvement, 60% greater power efficiency over the previous generation, together with the Qualcomm Kryo, KRYO 495 CPU. They claim it to be their fastest yet, and the processor is designed to deliver amazing graphics, powerful productivity, and again, multi-day battery life. They're touting LTE connectivity with this thing, multi-gigabit. The integrated X24 LTE modem delivers peak download speeds of up to 2 gigabits per second and improves the throughput by up to 70% in poor network conditions over non-gigabit LTE. Now, what I'm wondering, when I read poor network conditions, I think of rural. Okay, I think of out in the middle of nowhere. For people that have a rough signal in those areas, this could be a real godsend. So, high-speed connected computing for fast and efficient productivity and entertainment virtually anywhere. Now, that is going to be combined with our next item on this pamphlet, enterprise-grade security. The Snapdragon 8CX is built with a suite of security features and architectures, including full hypervisor support. Now, if anybody's watching this that is into the IT field, if somebody could explain to me what hypervisor is, I'd appreciate it. Again, I have not used Windows since XP, so hypervisor is new to me. Protected LTE connectivity, improved crypto security, and Windows 10 Enterprise support designed to safeguard passwords, logons, and sensitive personal information. Now, you've got other things like powerful graphics and AI architectures for advanced applications. This conference that took place was primarily intended for OEM partners to see what they could do with the technology. Now, we as end consumers are not going to be seeing anything till the second half of next year, but it does make your gears turn, or at least it makes my gears turn, because this is incredible, man. The enterprise grade security. I want to talk about that for a moment, because if we envision this in a work scenario, if we envision this as a work from anywhere scenario, your company issued laptop could very well have a Snapdragon in it in the coming years. Now, what's even more interesting is this. Me personally, I use ZoomText, or would use ZoomText if I was on Windows, and they recently announced their $80 per year home annual license, and I'm very excited about that. There's a business license that costs about $1,200 a year, and you can install the software on up to 3 PCs. And why is that important? Just a real quick look for those of you who do not know, this is the ZoomText main user interface. Why is that important? Because if we're looking at this from an enterprise standpoint, okay, ZoomText, and more importantly, ZoomText Fusion, which combines the Freedom Scientific JAWS screen reader with the ZoomText software from what was formerly AI Squared. From a business standpoint, if you're going to invest in assistive technology for your employees who you know have some degree of vision loss, then of course you're going to want to go with Fusion. And I've used ZoomText on Windows before. I just love it. I do miss the power of ZoomText that it brought to me when it was on the Mac. And it'd be nice for the assistive technology to, 1, be available in the Windows Store, 2, to run natively on this new architecture. Now, I bet you that there's a very real chance that that could be happening. If you're on a Windows PC watching this right now, go to the Microsoft Store and search for KNFB Reader. It turns out the software, at least from what I could see on their web client, was supposed to be running on ARM, x86, and 64-bit architectures. KNFB Reader is, for those of you who do not know, an all-in-one scanning and reading solution where you can scan documents, save them, manipulate them in such a way where, as a low vision user or a speech user, you manipulate that document for your needs. And I think that in the enterprise, that kind of software is invaluable, especially if you're trying to set up for an employee who is blind or has low vision, and you yourself as an organization still utilize hard copies of documents for whatever reason. So porting the assistive technology over to ARM, I think, is a logical next step. And I think with the new Snapdragon 8CX chip, that could very well happen. And it's not just ZoomText. I happen to know somebody who utilizes Dragon dictation on a regular basis. And it would be nice for Dragon to be ported over to an ARM chip. Now consider this. If this 8CX can get into a machine for less than $1,000, I'd say around the $500 price point. I'm speculating here, okay? I'm just going off the top of my head. But let's say that they do manage to come up with this for a $500 in time price point. Although I do think that realistically that's probably going to go to the 855 series of chips. So $500, and if you're buying for a business, or let's say you're buying for a household, or let's say you and your partner or you and your child each have individual needs, low vision with one family member, no vision with another family member, difficulties typing with a third, it'd be nice to be able to have a singular system with always-on connectivity, so that if your Wi-Fi went out, you would still have access to the cellular network and still be able to run the technology you need to be productive. ZoomText, JAWS, Magic, Dragon, whatever else software there is out there to help you really get the most. And going back to the work scenario, if you yourself have transportation issues, or you live out in the middle of nowhere and you want to work from home, and yet the company's like, oh, we can't have them work from home because we have sensitive software. By providing them with an LTE connected laptop, you wouldn't need, the company wouldn't necessarily need to worry, especially with the enterprise grade security this 8CX chip is supposed to offer, about company secrets falling into, malicious hands. So the point I'm trying to make here is this technology, this chip could honestly revolutionize Windows computing, and it has genuinely made me very excited for what's going to happen in the world of Windows. The other reason I highlighted the enterprise-grade security is that if there are some consumer machines that can have this option enabled, it might make Windows more secure. Now let me explain. Again, I've not used Windows since the XP days, and when I did switch over to the Mac, I found it a lot more fluid, a lot more secure, and a lot less likely to break. Even nowadays, I've heard the most recent Windows update was causing files to disappear. That shouldn't happen. And I'm thinking and hoping, excuse me, that with the 855 and the 8CX Snapdragon computers, that because it is a brand new architecture, it may very well by default be more secure. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I can tell you from a personal standpoint, if I had a Windows PC, I would stick to the Windows Store, provided it had the software that I needed. So being able to run Dragon or ZoomText or JAWS from the Windows Store, I think especially with this new annual licensing that they've come up with, let me at it. Seriously, let me at it. Let me try it. This would be huge. But those are my thoughts personally on the Snapdragon 8CX. I am overcome with anticipation for this technology. And it's also going to be interesting to see how Apple responds, because Apple firmly believes, I think, that mobile computing is the future. Otherwise, they wouldn't be pushing iOS. The new iPad has LTE connectivity, and it has the processing power to surpass most laptops. But, as many a journalist will tell you, the problem is iOS. Now, me personally, using magnification on iOS is doable, especially now that they've added full screen magnification and I don't have to worry about utilizing a tiny little window. But there are still small things. A lot of people have pointed out, and I will agree, the limited nature of the file system, the lack of ability to easily transport from a flash drive into whatever software you need without having to go through several hoops. I think that is a major short. And I'm no Apple apologist, but I do prefer them. And there's going to need to be some work here. Now, a lot of people are wondering, well, why don't they just bring the LTE connectivity and the touchscreen capabilities over to the Macintosh? Well, this is where I can see Apple's logic. They don't want to screw up the user experience. And they've always been about a smooth user experience. I can tell you that I've been able to get 10 years out of an iMac without any issues. This iMac that I'm on right now, aside from a slow login process, which I think must have to do with the age of the Fusion drive, other than that, once it's in, everything's just zippy as ever. Apple has got a genuinely loyal fan base from this, and they don't want to screw it up. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do, because if these always-on connected PCs can reach the level of economy in a few years, then I think that Apple, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to need to invest in some new technology. Now, I think that they're going to, and it's going to be interesting to see where they go next. But their current outlook, I mean, heck, I'm looking at an iPhone XR for Christmas because I really need a new device, as I've mentioned before. And yet this device, the iPhone XR, just a lot of people are saying it isn't selling well. Yet people are saying that this was artificially done to manipulate the stock. I don't know. The point is, if we take a look at what Microsoft is doing with Qualcomm and the Snapdragon series, and their assistive technology framework that was announced, I think it was this past summer, maybe it was last year, I'm pretty sure I either did a video or I shared something on social media about that. But it really does make you wonder who is innovating in this space. And I think for the moment it is Microsoft. And this is coming from somebody who's used Apple for 16 years. And I honestly think that my next computer may end up being a Windows PC with ZoomText, with always connected Qualcomm Snapdragon chip with an LTE connection. I think that it's going to be interesting to see where things go. But what do you guys think? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.